it's like internationally and locally. All right, so I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation. Allow me to share my screen, please. A minute. Sorry. What is it? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we can.
It's on slide share. Is it on slide share? Like, is it? I'm not quite sure what it's like. So, sorry. All right, so as I said before, my presentation is basically an overview of ornamental fish production. So I'll be looking at these topics, what are ornamental fish. I'll be giving a global overview of the industry. I'll be looking at the rationale, what are the reasons for starting an ornamental fish production facility, looking at it in terms of Jamaica, what's happening in Jamaica, some of the consideration that we'll need when you're starting ornamental fish production. And then I'll be looking at the linkage between the value chain, and I'll conclude. All right, is everyone hearing me?
Yes, Ms. McNeish.
Yes, Miss.
All right, then let me begin. So Zoom, doing a presentation on Zoom can be a bit lonely. So if there's ever a time where someone needs to say something, you can go ahead and say it. Probably you can do it by raising your hand and you'll be identified and you can go ahead and say what you have to say. All right. All right then. So what are ornamental fish? And ornamental fish, these are normally colorful fish. So that's one feature of ornamental fish. They're normally colorful and they can be found in marine environment as well as freshwater environment. And they're normally raised or collected for the pet fish industry. All right. And many times the ornamental fish, they are kept for the following reason. Some people keep ornamental fish just for hobby because they love it. As I said before, they're very colorful. So people tend to gravitate towards it. And normally persons from every age range, children love it, adults love it, teenagers love it, because they are really beautiful fish to look at. For relaxation purpose, it is always said that ornamental fish are very therapeutic. So a lot of times persons use it, you know, just for comfort, just to relax, just to ease their mind. So they would just sit and have it around, look at it sometimes. And they are for decorative purposes. So a lot of times it is used for decor. So it adds to the whole decor of the home. So persons might have their nice, you know, landscape home, and then they'll have, you'll see probably a koi pond or something like that in the home, or just a fish tank in the home. So those are some of the main uses or the main reasons why persons keep ornamental fish. And I should have asked before, are there any ornamental fish farmers or someone who does ornamental fish farming online now?
Want to go into it now, ma'am?
Pardon me? Yes, Miss Mendez, you said? Not hearing. All right, so just a global overview. Sorry. So ornamental fish are one of the most popular pets island-wide. So when compared to dogs, cats, hamsters, whatever it is that other pets people use or people have, ornamental fish is one of the most popular one. And it's a multi-billion-dollar trade, a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's practiced in more than 125 countries, or it is traded in more than 125 countries. And you have more than 2,500 species involved in ornamental fish production. And the good thing about it is that over 60% of it are of freshwater origin. So as I said earlier on, ornamental fish can be both freshwater and saltwater fish. But here in Jamaica, we do mainly freshwater ornamental fish farming. Okay, let me continue. And you'd ask, who are the persons who keep fish as pets? All right, it is shown that 1 in every 8 persons in the United States keep fish as pets. In Canada, 1.2 million people. And it will be growing because these are data from 2000, so before 2000, up to 2000. In UK, you have 140 million people. In France, 34 million fish being kept by 2.1 million homes. In Germany, 3.7 million households own fish. So you can see here right now that internationally, ornamental fish trade is, or the ornamental pet fish industry is actually a very big business, large business. And the trade at retail level is worth more than 10 billion US dollars with an annual growth of over 10%. The entire industry, including plants, accessory, aquarium, feed, drugs, is worth more than 18 to 20 billion US dollars. So yes, we farm ornamental fish, but the industry itself is way more than just the fish. It has to do with all the other things that the fish uses, supplies, everything that is needed to do the ornamental fish farming. And the worth is over 18 to 20 billion US dollars. So for us here in the Caribbean, especially us here in Jamaica, we would ask, what are some of the reasons, what are for us to get involved in ornamental fish farming? What are some of our strengths? And here you see, we are approximately 80% of ornamental fish, approximately 80% of ornamental fish are tropical fish. And you know, Jamaica is a tropical country. So 80% of those that are in the trade, in the pet fish trade, are tropical fish. So that means we have an advantage right there. And we have suitable climatic condition all year round. The US is the world's biggest, our largest importer of ornamental fish, and we are just 1.5 hours away from Florida. There is locally technical competence available, and us here at the National Fisheries Authority, we do ornamental fish training to actually assist those who are getting involved in ornamental fish. So those are some of the reasons why people can get involved in ornamental fish. So we're looking at it now in the context of Jamaica, what's really happening here as it relates to ornamental fish farming. So up to 2020, when we were going around registering farmers, we have over 50 active ornamental fish farmers. Three are farmers with a large system, and the main system of culture, the main system in which persons grow ornamental fish is what we refer to as a recirculatory system. And the figures you are looking, the pictures, sorry, that you are looking at is actually showing you a setup of what a recirculatory ornamental system would look like. So the picture of that top would be showing you that it's an enclosed area with the normally used shade cloth is normally used to enclose it. And they are grown, and this would be there's a second picture, the picture at the bottom, which is showing that what we call vats, or you may call them tanks. So this would normally be like the growth area. So it's normally grown, fish are normally grown in those tanks for growth, because you would breed them in some aquarium or whatever other stuff that you may have, and then you would grow them out in those tanks until you want to market them. And the tanks, as you can, they are connected. I think I have a better picture further down, and they are connected by PVC pipes, so the water continues to go through, recirculate through the system, filters, and then go back through the system. So that's normally a typical ornamental fish farming system. But the good thing about ornamental fish farming also is that it can be done in your backyard. All right, so you can use whatever you have available to grow the fish. So if you may have baths, some old baths or some aquarium, whatever you have, they can be grown in there. You just have to take care of them, maintain them properly. And now I look at rearing ornamental fish as a business, all right, and what you need. So in doing ornamental fish as a business, there are some factors that you would have to consider. Because earlier on, I would have told you that there are over 2,500 different species of ornamental fish. So first, you would have to know your markets at the bottom, but you'd have to know your market to actually decide which species you want to grow. And there are several different species, and I'll show you some later on. You'll have to also take in consideration the space that you have. So the space that you have will automatically determine the species that you grow also. Your access to water. And because it's a recirculatory system, having water is not really, because you can just fill a tank and then that water is recirculated and filter. Your startup capital, of course, for every business, you need startup capital. You have to also consider the equipment that you need. And I think I should say, like, as it relates to ornamental fish farming in Jamaica right now, this would be probably one of our weaknesses, just one off, because some of the equipment that you would need when you're doing ornamental fish production, probably you won't be able to source it locally. So sometimes you'll have to import through somebody. And pharmaceuticals as well, because you need those to treat your fish just in case you have fish being sick. And it may happen from time to time. Okay. All right, so as I was saying, there are a number of different species of ornamental fish, and we normally group them according to families. So these fancy names like the poecilids, these are a family of fish, and they are normally live bearers, so they give live birth. And these fish, most time they call them bread and butter fish. I think I'll explain further on as I go along. Because, you know, they breed easily, and you always have a lot. It's easy to get a lot of them, or for you to have a lot of them, and you can sell them easily also. You have the charansins, which are the tetras, cyprinids, the family for the barbs, anabantids, those are the fighters, and the gouramis. You also have the catfish and the cichlids, and cichlid encompasses a lot of species. And these are the pictures of some of them, but I do have some more pictures as I go along. I'm not sure how clear it is. So we can look at the value of the fish, and, you know, the kind of fish that you would want to grow. So the low value fish, the poecilids, we refer to them as a low value fish, like the mollies and swordtail, even some of the tetras and the platies. And they are sold in high volumes. You know, as I said before, you normally have a lot of them, so you can sell a lot of them. I'm speaking locally, but they are normally cheap, but they are easy to sell. and you have the mid-range fish. Oh, and if it's a case where you're exporting, that will give you an idea of the cost for each. So, you know, 10 cents and 20 cents US dollars. So the fish such as the cichlids now, and you have a lot of cichlids. These are called the mid-range fish in terms of price, and they normally fetch between 25 cents up to $2 US. And this quote would be from about 2020, so the price would increase now. And you have the high value fish. And these fish normally, what they call high value fish, these fish are normally harder to breed, right? And they tend to be really pretty, and sometimes they are even a larger fish. So like the koi, even though here you might see a lot of koi, sometimes they are really expensive fish, and they are sold based on their size. And because koi can grow very big, even up to 2 feet or thereabout, 3 feet, they fetch a lot of, and if you have the pure breed, or so you call them, koi, they fetch even a higher price. So like the discus, the koi, even some of the catfish, these are really high value fish. And as I said, sometimes, but kois are not really very hard to breed, but the others might be. Somebody has a question? And this is just a picture of some ornamental fish that are done locally. And most times these are the ones in demand locally too. As you can see, they are really, really beautiful fish. Next slide. All right, so another consideration is the space that you have. And they can be grown either indoor or outdoor, and in a variety of systems. And I mentioned before the research system, but they're also grown in other systems that we call aeration systems. So you may not have the water recirculating through the system, but you just have different water. Like every tank the water doesn't recirculate, so you have to change water often and all of that, and you just have air going into each tank. So the picture that you're seeing, the picture don't come up as it. And normally for business or on a business level, which will be more than just backyard, it's normally recommended that you do at least an 8 vat system. So 8 of those black vats that we have earlier on, that I showed you earlier on, the black tanks, and that's what we call an 8 vat system. That if you're doing it for business purpose, then you would start out with at least an 8 vat for grow out. And with an 8 vat system, you don't need to focus on a lot of species. So you can cut down to probably 1 or 2 species. So these are actually, these pictures that you're seeing, these are actually locally grown. These are systems that are here in Jamaica, and farmers. So the one to, what would I say? The left, the huge system, that's a really large, really large system. So a lot of species are done there. And so the one to my right at the top, that's a smaller system, but it's more than a backyard system. And this one you would see mainly a lot of koi. So those fish that you're looking at are mainly koi. So they wouldn't grow them very big for the market. They sell them at that size. And the picture at the bottom right, my right, is actually the breeding tanks. So normally in the system, you would have the growth area, as I told you before, but you would have a here where you set up the fish for breeding. And those breeding tanks are the fish, they're breeding angels in there. So different fish would actually require different ways. There are different ways of breeding different fish. So this one is just like showing you angel breeding. So normally, when we're doing a training in ornamental fish production, like a breeding is like a topic by itself. So we would cover breeding, both theory and practical. So persons can have a feel of it and what it's like, and see how technical it can be or how easy it can be depending on the species. Also, it can be grown in ponds. So like for fish like koi, it's best if they are grown in tanks, in ponds. So you set them, you can even, if you want to do selective breeding, you set them up in the tanks, and then when they breed and so forth, you can put them in the ponds to grow, especially if you want them at a larger size, which you would get a higher price for. So some farmers, like the large farmers that I refer to, they would normally do it in both the recirculatory system, as well as they would have ponds outside where they grow some species. Okay. So yeah, this would be a typical setup of what an ornamental system would look like. So you have a breeding area, you have your growth area, and you may need more than one growth area. You have the quarantine area. So, you'll be purchasing fish. Like initially, you would purchase what we call the brood stock, which is the parent fish that you'd set up for breeding. So once you purchase those fish, you don't put them in your system automatically. You have to put them in an area where you quarantine them and watch for disease and so forth before you introduce them to your system. And it's good to have, as a part of biosecurity, a sanitation area where foot bath, so that persons don't just come straight in your system and can bring in, diseases or parasites in there. Also, the sump, the section at the bottom to my left, that's what we call the sump. That's where the filtration takes place. So most time you have a gravel bed filtration system, and the water continuously goes through the system, filter there, and go back through the system. As it refers to the water, a non-chlorinated water source is preferred, but also you have what we call a dechlorinator that you can use in case you have to use the NWC water. So the dechlorinator would actually remove the chlorine out of the water. So that's all. So some of the startup material and general equipment that's usually needed are like air pump, nets, medicines, the system, of course, brood stock, packaging material, aquarium, ponds, whatever you'll be growing them with. And as I said earlier, this system is usually covered with a shade cloth. Also, other consideration are the capital and the market. So whether you're getting it from your personal savings, or you're using a loan, or you're doing it as a group, so you write a project and you get grants or project funding, as well as the marketing. The market will determine the size of your farm, your species that you grow, and the size of the fish. So whatever size the market wants it at, that's the size you'd have to sell them. So value chain linkage. So yes, when it comes to ornamental industry and any other business, there has to be a linkage between the farmer, the producer, and different areas that you need to consider when doing it. All right, so you have to look at biosecurity, your breeders, where you'll be getting fish from, growers. So you may have persons who just do breeding of fish. You may have especially if you have an organized system or a group of persons. You can have some who are good at breeding, so they'll be the breeders, and then some who would grow them out to the particular size for it to be sold, whether exported or sold locally. You have the hobbyists or the retailers. Some of them will just buy from you and sell back. You have the suppliers, which is important. So that's where you get all the equipment, all the tools, whatever it is you need for producing ornamental fish. The importers, because in the ornamental fish trade, you may need a particular species of fish that's not here locally, and you may not be able to import it yourself. So there you can find someone along the chain who will be able to import it for you, and you can purchase it from them. Of course, you need to consider your finances. Yes, pay special attention to the regulators. What is it that you need to do? Which organization or agencies you need to consult, whether it is before producing or when you're about to export, if you're exporting. So you need to know those persons. If you're exporting, you need to know the different airlines and what is it, the standard for each. So you know if you have a particular fish, which one you want to sell it on based on what is it that they want. And then it also, the airline would also determine how you package your fish for export and custom, of course, in terms of clearing your stuff and bringing in things in the island. And of course, if there is a group that export the fish for you. So there's a linkage, it's a chain linkage in the industry, and these people all play a part. So persons might have, a person have been asked if, from earlier before I talk about the rationale why we do it. So person might ask, why do the farm fail? Why is it that in Jamaica right now, even though ornamental fish production is whole, so to speak, why is it like it's still in the infancy stage and there are still a lot to be done? Most times there is poor production practices. And I could look at this also as some of our weaknesses. So there's poor production practices. There is inadequate information for example, sometimes there is not say adequate or accessibility to veterinary service. So for example, you have a system and you have a disease. We here locally, we don't have a vet who specializes primarily in fish diseases. So like to get a veterinary person to advise you like that will prove difficult. So most times it's trial and errors from the farmers or even from us at the fisheries division. There's insufficient monitoring and lack of effective marketing. So even though the market is there, getting it to the market, the export market is there and it's near, getting it to the market has proven difficult, especially if the farmers don't have an organized group. And sometimes one of the things that causes farms to fail also is that farmers try to support too many people from their operations. So sometimes it's a small farm and it has to support a really large family. So the capital, the working capital, sometimes it's not there or it's used up. So this is my conclusion. Ornamental fish production, it's not easy to fix the financial dilemma, yes, because as I said earlier on, you know, sometimes you have a large family and based on your size system, you might not be able to support it like that. It can be a viable business if an individual has the appropriate discipline and knowledge that is required. Given the unique demand of the market as it is, it relates to large volumes at cheap price. Therefore, recommended that there be a collaboration and consolidation between small and large investors with the requisite knowledge, skills, and resources. And as I show the linkage, everyone doesn't necessarily need to become a fish producer. But everyone can find their own niche in the value chain, because as I show you, the value chain is a really large chain. There are a lot of persons or a lot of areas that are involved that person can get involved in. So if you are not technically inclined to the whole breeding of fish, but guess what? You're good at marketing. You can find your area right there in marketing of the fish. And right now, that's actually a niche area when as it relates to ornamental fish farming in Jamaica, getting the fish to the market. So there are many different roles that people can play in ornamental fish production, and not just producers of it. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I have some references attached. But before I end, I didn't speak much to it, but currently there are some weaknesses in the system as it relates to ornamental fish production. And most of them can be solved with persons playing their different part in the linkages. So for example, even in getting started and all that, there's sometimes the bureaucracy in trying to get things done. It's very long, and sometimes it can be a really tedious process. So even us here at NFA, we speak about it, we have identified it. So sometimes some things can just come under one umbrella, because it's always done by the one ministry, but yet persons have to go to different sections, and sometimes that slows down, and persons sometimes get exhausted by doing that. Also, for me, one of the great weakness is that the willingness for or the unwillingness of farmers to actually come together as a group and actually take advantage of the untapped resources. So most times, especially in marketing of fish internationally, no one farmer can actually market fish and hold that market, because marketers, the importers, they are looking for consistency and quality. So in order for us here to take advantage of that, farmers have to come together. Farmers would have to come together, identify what they can produce, or they identify among themselves who is good at producing what, and based on their space, the volume that each can produce, and then we'll be able to export fish. And of course, it also persons also have to have knowledge about the whole exporting of fish and how you go about doing it and all of that. So different persons would have to play a different part. And among the farmers that we currently have, we have different areas of expertise. So sorry about that. So the farmers will definitely have to come together, identify the expertise of each person in terms of who can be the exporters, who can be the importers, work together, and then we can actually take advantage of the overseas market. So at this time, I'd like to ask, are there any questions, any comments? You can go ahead and speak.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was late, so I'm wondering if the recording will be shared.
Can someone from 4-H speak to that, please? Will the record?
Morning. The training is on YouTube. I will repost the link, okay? That you can get access to it.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Miss Mendez or Mrs. Mendez? Marvel? You have
Okay,
your
good
hand
morning.
up?
Morning to
Good
you,
morning.
ma'am. I have two questions for you. How wholesome it is to raise fish in concrete pond? That's one.
Pet
Should
fish,
I-
ornamental fish?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. You can just.
Oh, the other question. And
Yes.
number two, can the pipe water, the chlorine, be used to raise them?
All right. All right. So the first question, how wholesome is it to grow in concrete tanks?
Yes.
All right. So ornamental fish, yes, they can be grown in concrete tanks. They can be grown in concrete tank, plastic tanks, whatever it is you have, they can be grown there. And as I said before, it depends on the system that you also have. So if many farmers grow in concrete in plastic tanks, I've seen farmers, more than one farmers that also grow in concrete tanks. So it doesn't matter if it's plastic, concrete, or even the ponds, it can be done there. And
Okay.
you said chlorine water. Yes, you can use chlorine water, but you have to get rid of the chlorine out of the water. So you can purchase, it's sold on the market, the chlorinator that is used to take out the chlorine out of the water. And
Please
if
repeat
it's
that for me.
dechlorinator,
Okay.
you can get it at farm store, and you would use that to take out the chlorine out of the water before you put the fish in there.
Okay. Okay. All right. So say for instance, I'm using the dirt itself. Do I have to get something to spread inside of it?
Earthen ponds.
Yes.
So as it relates to using earthen ponds, then site selection becomes important. So you are going to use the pond, the pond it should be clay soil that is used to dig those ponds. Or you dig the ponds, so it can hold the water once it's compacted. If it's your choice or preference, you can line it. But liners tend to be expensive.
Oh, okay.
So that will just increase your initial cost or your input.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Janelle?
Hello, pleasant good morning to you one and all. My question is I'm a member of the Hanover Forest Club for years, but I live in St. Catherine now, Spanish Town, but they keep calling me from Hanover, telling me they have session, but keep on telling that I'm in St. Catherine. They say they want me a transfer and give up this from last year, and I know I don't get back any updates on it. So how do I go about it? Because I really want to be back in the Forest Club.
Janelle? I'm not sure if it's on my end, but I couldn't hear you clearly. You were breaking up.
Okay, sorry. I was saying, good. I was saying, one and all. I'm a member of the Hanover Forage Close back then when I was going to school, but they keep calling me now, telling me they have a session in Hanover. I want to come and pick up a certificate. But I explain and tell them for years that I am in St. Catherine. If they could give me a chance and they say, sure, no problem, they will do it and give me a call. And I haven't received any feedback from them all now.
If I hear it clearly. Someone is supposed to pick up a certificate from where?
No, listen, oh, you're still not hearing me.
No, it was breaking up. Anyone else?
No, I was saying,
yes.
I used to be a member of the Hanover Forest Club, but I'm no longer located in Hanover.
Okay.
I live in St. Catherine. But I explained and tell them, and last year they called me and told me that I was supposed to come and pick up a certificate from the Forest Club. But I told them I'm no longer living there. If they could give me a chance, and they said sure. But they're gonna do it and give me a feedback. And I don't know what I haven't received any. Only thing I'm getting in from this group is session. So nobody to join it.
Someone from 4-H would probably contact you on that. Probably send you a message right on the platform right now. But
I will do the same. I will address the matter. I'm going to give you a contact number in the chat, and you can just contact the parish office, and we take it from there.
I do tell excuse me, I do text a person from the parish office if I could be back a member, if I could join the one in St. Catherine.
Yeah, but let me deal with this matter off the air. Okay?
No problem, thank you.
So check your chat for a message. All right. Any more questions?
What is the cost for the breeder fish?
Breeder fish. That's the parent fish you're talking?
Yes, miss.
Also, so the cost for fish depend on the species
Okay.
and the size also.
Okay. Okay. And you have fisher folks that are doing that part of the production.
That are doing what? The breeding part?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have fish farmers that are breeders that do the whole production also. So if you need a particular type of fish, you can actually contact us here at NFA, and we could liaison and or get numbers of farmers and give it to you so that you could contact them and find out.
Okay, thank you.
I see Leanne from Fisheries Online. Leanne, is there anything you want to say? If you are able to say, based on where you are. Anyone else has any question? Leanne is busy. Any takeaways? Was it that clear? Everybody understood what I said?
Yes, miss.
Mr. Lee, is there anything you'd want to add? Philip Lee? Okay. All right, I guess nothing. So tomorrow, what I wanted to do, since I did an overview of ornamental today, tomorrow I'll give an overview of tilapia production in Jamaica before we go into any details in ornamental fish production. So I just want to give a broad overview of tilapia production in Jamaica tomorrow.
Okay, miss. Thank you.
Okay. I'll now hand over back to the moderator.
Thank you, Ms. McNeish.
You're welcome.
Well, participant, that is the end of our training until tomorrow. You can join us at 10:30. Please be on time, as we can get to cover all the material Ms. McNeish have for us. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
And it's the same link?
Yes, it is the same link.
Okay, same time.
Same time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you, and same to you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.